Uh, Happy holidays. This is Cadis Brooks with the weekly briefers. Um, Weekly video, or roughly weekly. Sometimes I get quite a bit busy with the various businesses I own. I'm also a professional student. I got my master's degree. I'm working on trying to get my PhD. So it'll be sometimes longer than a week, couple weeks. It all depends. Uh, Again, I'm really busy this week too, but I do have a few really strong points I want to get across. Um, Another thing I've also noticed about these weekly briefers is that I'm going to try and keep things short because some of my other videos are longer. Some of the more introductory videos are longer, and if people want that same information, they can just watch that again. And I'm not going to keep repeating the same stuff. And when it comes down to business strategy, finance strategy, political strategy, these things don't change. They operate usually by timeless rules. So they're not here and there, then and now. It's consistent, and it's actually really dangerous to just change things up and follow the poverty of innovation. As is called in strategic studies. So the three things I'm going to talk about today is the problem of American brand names and becoming sellers for those American brands. Then I'm going to advise you about tax strategy and learning about tax strategy, very important. And uh, going to give you a bit more advice on the Omicron situation with investing, really just to drive home the important strategy of sticking to what you always do, what you know best, and not taking any risks, minimizing risks to the utmost by staying very consistent and strategic in your investing. Okay, so the first problem here is actually very major. Now, if you are starting up your own business or you're looking to expand your business, one of the best things you can do is try and find brand names of many different goods, whether it's Samsung, whether it's Nike, anything really popular, and becoming a reseller for those goods. If you can find, manufacturers, whether out of China or if you can go directly to the brand name companies and become a reseller for them, or potentially for one of their middlemen marketing companies that they download that kind of work to. So you go talk to one of these middlemen companies, you say, hey, what goods can you give to me in a bulk rate that you have patents for, and then you become a reseller like that. Now, the main problem with this, and I can tell you this directly from experience because I own a company called Items Canada. I've been working on this company for a couple of years. I do specialize in cell phones, so I get brand name cell phones, Samsung, Motorola, Apple, all the really good brands. I get really good prices at a wholesale price, and I can resell and beat Best Buy, Walmart, all the major cell phone companies. And I do really well with that cell phone company, and I'm looking to expand it. But I was lucky to get a wholesale manufacturer for those brands. But unfortunately, I tried again and again and again to try and get uh, JBL wholesaler, Nike wholesaler, because I was looking to move into other items like clothing. Um, Bose, the speakers, very popular. Things like Gucci, anything really good and popular, going to sell. I'm interested, but I keep trying and I keep getting denied access to these wholesalers. So one problem is that in China, many of the wholesalers that you're going to find on Alibaba, they don't actually have access to the real legitimate goods for, you know, Xbox and PS5 and Nike and all this. And so they're going to try and sell you counterfeits or replicas or no-name brands. And that isn't going to cut it. You know, that's not what people are looking for. And then if you try and go directly to the companies themselves, Xbox or Microsoft or whatever. The problem there is that they're not even going to talk to you, right? They're, you're going to talk on the phone. They're going to give you some sales people to contact, and they never get back to you, or they just don't treat you very serious, and you don't get anything done. And this is going to be for like every single name brand you could try. Now, this is a very tragic thing for small businesses. This is something that I am warning you about. I'm not saying don't try. There are ways of getting around it, although not very consistent unless you can go straight to a wholesaler or the brand itself. But I think regulators in the US and in Canada and other countries, they need to regulate these brands and find some way to make sure that if you are a licensed business owner, small business, doesn't matter, you are allowed to gain access to these goods. Maybe you have to buy a bulk amount to get a bulk rate. That's totally fine. But they should be giving access, because if they do not, then that is a violation of free trade. And unfortunately, the facts are that the companies that actually sell these name brand goods are monopolies, okay? Or duopolies, oligopolies. They're all really the same thing, okay? So you've got one brand, one store, two store, three stores, Best Buy, Walmart, and GameStop, and these are the only places that are going to be selling you real Xbox goods at a good price, okay? And that's very poor for small businesses. Small businesses have been taking so many hits from these monopolies that the regulators got to do something. This isn't communism. This is nothing like that. I know that China cracks down on any kind of companies trying to monopolize like this. I don't think it's a matter of restricting their property rights in any way. I think that it's a matter of them not being allowed to specifically control markets with monopolizing who can sell for you, and you're not willing to work with small businesses that are at premature stages and trying to grow. That's no good. Okay, so there should be more targeted support for this in governments, and they should really look at this, especially considering that these monopolies are finding every way to skip their tax bill. They pile on expenses and so forth, and by piling on expenses, which really means they're actually just expanding their store, they're buying a new store, they're getting more inventory. All that stuff is very worthwhile, and then their costs go up, and that means that their tax bill is going to be less because the governments don't tax expenses. Okay, so if you own a business and you go buy a new lot, commercial real estate, and that costs you big money, you put that on your income statement, and it will reduce your revenue, it will reduce your income, and then you pay less income tax. And they do it all day long. That's how Amazon grew to exponential growth. They're going to continue to do it. They're going to find every single loophole they can get a hold of, and it's really up to the governments to try and find a way to prevent monopolies from dominating all the areas of the market. So many people are put out of business by these companies. It's just, everybody knows this, but it's so catastrophic for the wealth income gaps that everybody in your society is going to be working dead-end jobs, or they're going to be overfilling the public sector in the sense that they're going to work for the governments because they can't open up their own businesses. You're going to have a huge government, way too many people working in public service because they need good jobs. The government's going to take on more debt and whatnot to pay these people. It's just a downward spiral. It's much better to have lots of really strong small businesses to medium-sized businesses, and they can all compete with each other. There's a strong dynamism. You're going to get quality goods that way. You're going to be, keeping those mom and pop shops in business. I'm a very strong supporter of small business. I myself am opening up many small businesses, and I advise through this channel to continue to do that. You can make good money doing it, and it's very intelligent. You can employ your family. I mean, the history of economics has always been family farms, family shops, family businesses in various different ways. That's how it's been for the longest time. We haven't seen monopolies like the size of those that have come out in the 20th century ever. These are just, so don't get pushed away from the topic as if you were some crazy leftist, communist, this and that. It's not true. These monopolies need to get regulated, And one of the major ways that governments can raise taxes is actually by having more small businesses that are actually going to pay their taxes and care about their communities, which is unlike, let's say, McDonald's that just cares about the one state that they're from, and they don't care about what's going on in the economy of the Netherlands or wherever else they are, and they just want to pay the lowest taxes, take everybody's jobs, and then pay them minimum wage, and then they inflate their prices. As soon as you try and raise the minimum wage, they inflate their prices. And don't get fooled. Inflation doesn't just happen. Inflation happens when the sellers decide to raise their prices. They decide to do it. Okay? So if you have a government that says, hey, these guys are ripping our people off, they only want to pay us $10 an hour when we want them to be earning $15, $16, $20 an hour minimum, which is not very much money. So then you enforce your minimum wages, and then right away they inflate, okay? They raise the prices of their goods because they don't want to pay the bill. They want to put it onto the consumer, and then it worsens, it negates the whole process, but then it worsens the income of the people because they have to spend more and more. And, you see this from rents to housing prices, and it's just out of control. So keep up the pressure. Government's got to do something about it. I'm one of those guys that really kicks people's ass and get them right into go mode. I got a master's degree in political science. I know what I'm talking about when it comes to this kind of stuff. So keep up the pressure. The governments are onto these monopolies and so forth. But I thought I would highlight that one point about brand names and becoming resellers for these brand names. It should be much easier. You should be able to call up JBL and say, hey, I'm a small business. Here's my license. I'd like to start off with 50 goods, variety. Give me different colors, please, at a wholesale price. And then you sell them yourself, and they're going to sell because they're hot in the sense that the people really want them. They're popular. You get a wholesale price. You make small profit, good enough to get going. Call them back and do more business. It should be that simple. That's business. All this other runaround where you call them and, oh, hey, you're going to have to talk to our sales department. You send them an email and they never get back to you. You know what I mean? It's almost as if you need a lawyer there to say, hey, if you don't get back to me, I'm going to sue you. And that's just not how business should be done. But on the other hand, if they see that you're from, Walmart's or one of these really big companies, and say, oh, well, he's prestigious, he's, this is that, he's this, he's that, and then they're going to call you back, and that's wrong, guys. It's wrong. Another thing is I'm all about free trade and that kind of thing, and I am one of the guys that wants to increase the trade relations with the U.S. and that kind of thing, but there is a major, major trend of them wanting free trade all across the world, but their brands. They want to close the doors to us entering their economy, but they want us to open up to them and favor their businesses, and then they hold these, patents and whatnot to protect their brands, and then you can't resell their brands, and they just end up setting up on each one of your cities, Walmart here, Best Buy there, and it's all from America. That stuff's got to be watched. I know the governments are onto that, but, public support's always needed for that stuff, so... Okay, next point, tax strategy. I'm going to keep this simple. Go read a tax book, okay? Very simple one. Go right to, your chapters or wherever you get your books. You can even get one used. Get something up to date, though, because there are changes in taxes. It's much simpler than you think. Read a tax strategy book. You want to know what those big businesses are doing with their tax strategies. These aren't myths. It's not really hard to understand. These simplified tax books are going to teach you how it's done, why they're doing it, and so forth. You'll be more educated when you're talking about the future of tax strategy for tax legislation, and you'll also have strategies for yourself to determine how you want to work your income for the year, what expenses you should take at different times of the year, why people put on the expenses at the end of the year to boost their expenses for the year, all this kind of stuff. You want to be right on point for that stuff. And if you're a multinational company, of course, you're going to want Canada tax strategy, U.S. tax strategy, UK tax strategy. The stuff is very easy. You get a book like this thick, even smaller. I read mine in a few days, and once I read that, I was like, wow, okay, good to go. I went to business school for a couple of classes. That's all I really needed, to be honest with you. I already got a master's degree in political science. I do lots of political economy. I do calculus stuff like that, high-level math, but that's not the point. Right to it, they teach tax strategy in that business school for a reason. You don't need to go to school for it. It's simple. Another point is that go and get yourself something like Simple Tax. You get it with Wealthsimple. or TurboTax, one of those tax generating systems, so that they will go through the fine points for you in the sense of this line, that line, that line, and they'll make sure everything's done consistently so you can file your own taxes. It's another really good strategy. File your own taxes. Save yourself some money, because if you've got a really complex income tax and you want your accountant to do it, it's going to be big money, okay? And I mean, it's going to be worth it, especially if you're a bigger business. But if you can get away with a simple income tax that you can do yourself, I mean, to be honest with you, I do my own taxes. I got no problems. I got extra tax benefits I never had before just because I do it myself and I look into all the benefits. Don't expect your tax accountant to know all the benefits or to give you that kind of advice. I used a tax accountant for years, and they never told me about the Canada Workers benefits or anything related to that, or what kind of expenses to accumulate for whatever reasons. I never learned anything about it. You go in there, you say, hey, can you do my taxes? They don't say nothing. They put your school stuff on there. That's it. And if you don't know what you're talking about, you don't know what questions to ask, which kind of benefits you might miss out on, well, they're not going to help you. Learn it yourself. You're going to get lots of benefits, different strategies. You're going to know what you're doing, okay? And then, it's still good to get an audited income statement and balance sheet and so forth. And it's still good to use accountants just to make sure everything's done properly, so you don't make mistakes and get into trouble. But at least you'll be able to verify what they're doing. You're going to be able to hire the right accountant, and you're going to be able to do some of the work yourself so they don't have to do it all. Save some money. Knowledge is power. That's the way to do it. Okay, so last point. I'm not going to keep repeating my investment strategy or my investment advice to develop your own strategy. I know Omicron is battering the market somewhat. I actually thought it was going to batter it quite a bit more. When it was first coming out, it seemed to create some losses in the stock markets. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Warren Buffett, use the Warren Buffett metric to figure out if stocks are overvalued or not. They're going to do that stuff for you online for free. Just type it in, Warren Buffett metric, are stocks overvalued? And the result is that they are overvalued. They're way overvalued. That's one of the reasons why he has so much cash. We're talking about Warren Buffett here. He has so much cash in his portfolio, and he's just sitting on it. He's waiting for the right opportunity. He understands that if markets are overvalued, that's going to usually lead to a market crash, so on and so forth. He's ready to go for that. Whatever your strategy is, if you want to keep some cash, some stock, or lots of stock, little cash, lots of cash, small stock, whatever your strategy is, stay consistent. Don't waver. Whenever these new little crises come along, don't worry about it. I mean, even when that COVID-19 first hit and you saw some of the worst sell-offs, in 10 years, and the stocks just crashed, the thing is that you don't sell while it's crashing. That's foolish. You needed to have a cash portfolio already ready for that crash. So you got to be like Warren Buffett, like I just said, where he's got so much cash, then it crashes, and his cash is ready to go. That's the whole reason of having a part stock, part cash portfolio, okay? Where you've got a buildup of cash ready to go to pounce on big opportunities like that COVID-19, right? And I mean, if you're one of those guys who wants a cash portfolio and you're looking to pounce on even stuff like the Omicron crisis, which is much less than the initial COVID crisis, that's fine too. Whatever your strategy is, keep consistent. I went over many different ways of doing it. I'll continue to give specific advice that's really going to help people. But happy holidays. Thank you for listening. Please take my advice and my ideas seriously. I think about this stuff. I don't give any useless information. This stuff is terse, it's compact, and it's meant to be meaningful. If you got to repeat the video, go ahead, because this stuff is stuff you're going to want to know. Okay? Have a great one. If you're interested, like the video. Like the rest of the videos and subscribe. I'll be coming out with more intelligent, interesting, up-to-date, timeless strategies. Have a good one.